Good morning. I'm going to call to order this regular meeting of the Anthony Wayne Board of Education. It is Wednesday, June 29th at 8:03. Carrie, would you please call roll?
Mr. Baden?
Here.
Mrs. Brent?
Here.
Mrs. Gwynn?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Okay, would you rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. As you know, one of our newly elected board members, Andrew Prine, has taken a job in Wisconsin and is moving out of state. This prompted his resignation from the Anthony Wayne Board of Education. He submitted his resignation to me effective June 18th, 22. Per the district board policy, we announced the opening publicly and asked that interested parties submit a letter of interest to Carrie Johnson, the district treasurer. The task of filling this open position is placed with the remaining members of the Board of Education. State law requires that this be done within 30 days of his resignation, or the Lucas County Probate Court appoints a replacement. We've had several letters of interest from the community sent to the treasurer, and at this point, we are going to go into executive session to discuss the filling of the position. So it shouldn't be very long, but we will do that and then come out and finish our meeting then. I need a motion to go into executive session to discuss the employment of public employees.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
Kyle and Jana. And Carrie, would you please call roll on that?
Mr. Baden?
Yes.
Mrs. Brent?
Yes,
Mrs. Gwynn?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
all righty.
Blue conference room is available.
Blue conference room, okay. right, welcome back from our executive session.
We have to do this.
Yeah, we need a roll.
we need
I'll
a
make
roll
a,
call.
Oh, for the, okay, I need a motion to come out of executive session.
I'll make that motion.
Kyle, in a second.
I'll second.
Jeff?
And Carrie, would you please call roll?
Mr. Baden?
Yes.
Mrs. Brent?
Yes?
Mrs. Gwynn?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
All righty. All right, after some conversation that was probably a little longer than I'd said it would be, we've chosen to appoint Troy Lutz to the vacancy. Troy was appointed in April of '21 after Doug Zimmerman moved out of the district, and in November, he was a candidate for one of two positions that were up for reelection. And after a recount and a very close election, Troy was in a tie with Andrew Prine. And per Ohio law, the way that was determined that Andrew Prine was the winner was by a coin flip. Therefore, we feel that the community voted and supports Troy as a member of the Anthony Wayne Board of Education, and we look forward to continuing our work together. And for the other community members, which I know Shelley is the only one that's present at the moment, unless someone else is on the live stream, I encourage you to contact the Lucas County Board of Elections on the specifics on being on the ballot. The next election is November of '23, at which point there are 3 of us that are up for reelection at that point, and per Ohio law, Troy will also be up for, or his position would also be up for reelection at that point. And thank you for your interest in making a difference for the children of Anthony Wayne Schools. And at this point, and we're going to ask for a motion to,
Yeah, so we need a second for the nomination as well. So you're the first, and so we
Okay.
need a second for the nomination.
okay, I need a second then for
Roll call.
the nominating or of the appointment of Troy.
I'll second for Troy.
And Carrie, would you please call roll?
Mr. Baden?
Yes.
Mrs. Brent?
Yes.
Mrs. Gwynn?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
All right, and so then at this point, our next order of business is for Troy to take the oath of office. If you would come up, please.
Do solemnly affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will be faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as board member of the Anthony Wayne Local Schools, Lucas County, Ohio, to the best of your abilities and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified? If so, answer, I do.
I do.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, Troy. We're gonna invite you up here to have a seat with us. Since you weren't prepped on the agenda, we'll probably will not have you actively voting today, but you're welcome to join us at the table.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
All righty. We have a full house again. Okay, the next item on our agenda then is to, okay, Kyle, in a second, please.
I'll second.
Carrie, would you please call roll?
Mr. Baden?
Yes.
Mrs. Brent?
Yes.
Mrs. Gwynn?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
All righty. Next item is our treasurer's report. Carrie?
Thank you. As you know, June 30th, the reason we have our meeting so late in the month is due to the end of the fiscal year, which is tomorrow.
So my agenda is like half of the alphabet, and I apologize, but it should go quick. Most of these things are routine, and you've actually approved a lot of them during the year, but through modifications or whatever that I submit, but you are approving a lot of final reports. So the first item on the agenda is to approve the May 2022 financials as presented. Under item B is to approve the donations as listed, and we're always very appreciative of those. Under item C is to approve the fiscal year 21-22 year-end advances. These are funds that will advance out of the general fund to our grants that we didn't receive all of our funds for, and then the grants, or the funds are repaid to the general fund by July 31st of '22. So it's a short-term loan process, so to speak. And we do have one of our grants, which is a little unique. We are the fiscal agent for our grant that you're approving the funds on the agenda tonight. This morning, not used to a morning meeting. And so there is hope that even though the project cash request was submitted, we have not received those funds, so it is set up to transfer, or to advance the funds for that grant, since we do hold the funds and we are a fiscal agent for that. It's a little different. So I did.
Sorry, that's the Waterville
Water is
grant.
in
The Waterville, yes, I did add that. That's what I was going to share, that is this ESSER Summer Expand Grant. That was just added this morning, so if you're looking at your paper copy, it might be there, it's on your desktop copy. So I do apologize for adding that last minute, but it's more so just in case that has to happen. I've been checking all week when it's coming, the check's been issued. It's a wire transfer, but it just hasn't made it here, but all my other ones have.
Okay.
So, but again, those funds are repaid to the general fund by July 31st. Under item D, you are approving the fiscal year '22 final appropriations. This reflects all the pluses and minuses you see to the account modification report that you approve in Part A of the agenda. When you approve all the monthly reports, one of the reports is account modifications and then and now certificates. These reflect all those changes, and then some other ones that I made in June in order to balance out the fiscal year. So, and you'll approve a lot of those again at our next regular meeting, in case there were any miss between now and the end of the fiscal year, which is tomorrow. So I ask that you approve those. Our total general fund appropriations were $46.2 million. All funds were $61 million. And obviously, that is, you can see all other ones include a lot of our ESSER revenues, our federal programs, the normal grants that we normally get. So food service, all those included in the total fund. So last year, just a comparison, our general fund was at $45.9 million, so not much change. I apologize. Last year's was 6.1 total funds. This year it's 6.5. So our general fund for this year is 46.2. Total is 65 million.
Okay.
Last year was 45.9 million, and all funds was 61 million. So the difference is the change in the grants. That's what I wanted to show you. We have more revenue in all funds, and most of that's due to ESSER revenue. So sorry about that. Can't read my own writing sometimes. Under item E is to approve the final amended certificate. This certifies all final revenues for the district, including anything from real estate to food service funds to grant revenues. So total revenue estimates for fiscal year '22 were $48.9 million. As a comparison, for fiscal year '21, it was $48 million. So not much change there. Under item F is to approve temporary appropriations. This is for fiscal year '23, and we appropriated 25% of the final fiscal year '22 appropriations that you approved in item D. So I ask that the board approve those, and that just allows that I can start spending. We have a payroll in July, we have electric bills, all that just permits. You'll approve permanent appropriations in September. So, under item G is to approve a couple grants. We have a Martha Holden Jennings grant, foundation grant for $15,000 to Brad Rhodes at White House. And we also have the ESSER Summer Expand to Waterville Primary. This is a grant that they applied for through ODE. It's a 3-year grant for a summer school program. So it is actually, I'm having you approve it for all 3 years because that's the total allocation for the grant, but they're basically splitting it out.
Splitting it in 3.
In 3, so, it's just a little different than some ones we've had in the past, so. Under item H, in talking to the new city administrator at the City of Maumee, we had a little breakdown in communication from one administrator to the other administrator, and in approving an abatement, and through discussion, we decided it would be best if they appoint someone from the school to their tax incentive review council. Obviously, it's just a meeting that I show up. It's nothing for pay or anything, but it's just, I'm appointed to that committee, and the board does have to approve that person. I'm more than happy to do it unless you'd rather have someone else do it, but if so, I'm happy to do so because I always bring you those things and share everything with you anyways, so I'm happy to go ahead and take that appointment. Under item I is to approve the contract addendums for both the treasurer and the superintendent, and this would be effective August 1st of 2022. Under item J is to approve our property, fleet, and liability insurance to the Ohio School Plan at a cost of $105,450, and this will be effective July 1 of 22 through June 30th of 2023. We did go out for bid this year. We did have 2 bids. This was the lower bid. So we will be changing from Liberty Mutual to Ohio School Plan as we do bid this each year. So that will be effective July 1st. And then we will have our cyber insurance that renews August 1st. So that will come at our next regular meeting for that approval for renewal. So
What's this number compared to last year?
last year, we paid about that same amount, but we did increase our liability, our values, by about $50 million. So the next closest bid was about $25,000 higher. So obviously, they were the lowest responsible bidder, so that's why we are changing. So, but last year we did pay, I think it was just like within $300-400
I thought it was pretty close.
of what we paid, so not a whole lot there. And like I said, they were the lowest bidder, lowest responsible bidder, so we will try that this year. Under item K is to approve the resolution declaring the intent to proceed with the election of question for the renewal of an emergency levy, and this will be placed on the November 8th ballot. This goes back to 2003, when it was passed by the community to have an emergency levy. And again, the term emergency doesn't state that it was necessarily emergency. It's just a term levy based on a fixed dollar amount. When we first passed the levy, it passed for 5 years at 4.85 mils and generated $3 million. The renewal has been certified by the Lucas County Auditor that it will renew at $3 million, and it will be at 2.28 mils. So you can tell as the valuation in the district has went up, the millage goes down. And then this will renew for 10 years. We switched to renewing it 10 years in the last levy, or last renewal. So, and once this is passed, I have everything that will be required to go ahead and place this on the ballot, so it will be delivered to the Board of Elections next week. So, again, it's a renewal, and it's actually costing much less than it used to, so. Under item L is to approve a direct payment from Lane Drug Company, also known as Rite Aid, for the amount of $7,436.45. They've done this, when they originally made this negotiations, they did this for 3 years, so this is year 2 of it, and then it'll pay 1 more year. This will be the last time someone will have the opportunity to make a direct payment with some change in some legislation that Mr. Marin had passed through the House and Senate and the governor's desk. So that will be the last time. I did question that this will still apply towards our last payment since we already had an agreement, and I was told it would because it's already in place. Then it will just go on the tax duplicate and it'll be paid through regular taxes. Under item M is to approve items for disposal for Monclova Christian Academy per their letter dated June 23rd. We do have auxiliary funds. We serve as the fiscal agent for the non-publics in our district, so these funds go through us. Basically, they recede into us and then go to the ESC. They handle all the payments, but we are responsible for their inventory, so I ask that the board approve the items on the letter for disposal per their request. And then the last item I have on the agenda is to recommend a renewal of membership in the Ohio Schools Council at a cost of $955.82, and this is effective July 1 of '22 through June 30th of 2023.
And the services we receive from that is?
It's a lot of our co-op purchasing. They do a lot of bidding. We do a lot through there. That's where we get a lot of our discounts and our a lot of paper products. We get their purchasing price, so
Yeah, we make up the
It's-
cost of that.
Oh, yeah.
that
in savings.
Cooperative purchasing that we do.
Okay. And that's it, Carrie?
I know. I think.
Have some more alphabet letters.
Welcome to June.
Yeah, and I think I noticed on my copy of the agenda, the roll call got moved up ahead of there. I don't know if,
No, it's, yeah, mine,
oh, okay.
No, it's in the right
Okay,
place on
sorry
this
about
one,
that.
yeah. Okay.
That is all I have. Any questions? I know it's a lot.
The cyber insurance that we'll vote on in the next meeting, that one had jumped up significantly last year. Are you setting that out for bid, or?
It is out for bid. Bids are due in July 15th. We've already received one, and it's around $15,000, which is low. So I don't know. Last year was around $25,000. So we have been required to make some changes and have it's called an MFA, which is a multi-factor authentication. Yeah, that. Multi-factor authentication. Yes.
So when you get in your email now, you know, actually, as of end of day tomorrow, everybody will have to have that in place. But most of us do at this point. It's the same thing that if you're a student at BGSU, you have to do it, or an employee, or, you know, a lot of organizations are going to multi-factor.
Yeah.
You know, just another step for security, to make sure that, because I will tell you, I probably myself get 3 to 5 email messages a day that are spam, that are people asking, you know, hey, we want a person from overseas wants to donate this money, and we want you to give us the bank account. Or we've had situations where they try to mock my email address saying, hey, we're going to give you an additional payment as an employee, you know, click this link, that type of stuff. There's all kinds of different things that they're trying to do. And Toledo Public, Washington Local have had significant security breaches. And we're trying to work with NWACA and try to eliminate those types of things. And, you know, the insurance companies have certain requirements that they have us go through to do that as well. And hoping that we never have that issue.
Right. And by putting these in place, does that potentially put us in a position to lower those premiums? or they're just the bare minimums that they're requiring?
They're almost bare minimums. If you don't have them in place, your premium might be higher.
Okay.
So, and I mean, I have them, you know, just with the school bank accounts. I mean, I have little things on my phone that I have to go to, and it gives me a code that flashes up, and, you know, that's how I log into the school accounts. And, I mean, I just think as times change and there's more and more fraud, you know, and cyber attacks, and, you know, I just think that that's just a sign of the time. So it's just, you know, as the need's there, you know, the costs are gonna rise. And, you know, we had something this week, it was an invoice that came from Geek Squad, which is Best Buy, for our 2-year renewal of QuickBooks. And I'm thinking, you know, and it couldn't look more real. And then when we got looking at it a little bit, the email that it came from was really weird. And, you know, here my first thought was, you know, and it said that your account was debited and you should see it on your next statement. So I'm thinking, that's not us, but, you know, maybe it's the athletic boosters or someone that has this and the bill just came to us. Well, here, what they want you to call, and then they want you to verify your account number and all that stuff, which we didn't do, but that's the process they're taking. And it's just, so you can see how easy it is that it would happen. I mean, it had the little buggy on there and everything, so it's just crazy every day, so you just really have to be careful. But this does protect us. It's something that we definitely have to have. At one point, I remember when I first brought it to the board a couple years ago, it was kind of like, hey, this is new, but, you know, they're recommending we have it, you know, and it was like $3,500, and so, and now it's something like it's hard to get. They're, you know, changing the requirements in order to get it, and so, but yeah, but I will be bringing that. And there won't be a lapse in coverage. I'll just have the board, you know, approve it effective, the effective date, so.
Okay, thank you.
Do the employees receive training for what to look for? All of the examples you just gave are common examples, right? So did the employees get training, what to be on the lookout for?
So
how
Chris
to-
puts out information in regards to that, to try to eliminate those types of concerns. You know, unfortunately, if I'm getting 2 or 3 or 5 a day, that means they're also probably getting those as well, and similar types of situations. And so, you know, Chris has definitely put out messages in regards to don't click on those links that look suspicious, and you know, look at the email addresses. There are several times that people will try to impersonate, like for example, the building administrator, and say, hey, click on this link, you know, or that type of thing. And so we try to work with the staff of making sure as you go into those things, you're looking for what is the email address being sent from, you know, because it might have the name of that person in there, but then look at the rest of it, right? And make sure it's actually coming from the AnthonyWayneSchools.org. Yeah, so making sure that
It's legit, yeah.
Yeah, I just know that my employer provides training, right, often on this topic. I think many do, so there's options out there. That's why I was asking, so maybe there's an opportunity to get some of that training and repeat it. I think that happens. I think a lot of you probably go through the same training, so.
Right.
Just an opportunity, maybe.
Yeah, and like I think I shared last month, just, you know, the fraud of the unemployment claims that were happening again all of a sudden, you know, and it's,
Again.
you know, it's just crazy on, you know, things that are just going on out there, so we pay very close attention to that, so. But, so that is all I have, if there's no further question.
Any comments on her being appointed to the Mommy's TIF thing? I think that's a good, it's logical that you be on it. And I just wanted to mention again about the levy, that it's not new money, and it is about half of what, a little more than,
Yeah, it
Less
was
than-
originally
yeah.
passed at 4.85 mils, and
yeah.
it's 2.28 mils now,
Right.
so.
right? So yeah, that's no new monies, but it is part of our budget, so,
significant dollars within our
Within our
operational
budget, yeah.
yes.
yes, so. Anything else for Carrie? If not, I need a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Carrie, please call roll.
Mr. Baden?
Yes.
Mrs. Brent?
Yes.
Mr. Gwynn? Mrs. Gwynn, I apologize.
Yes.
I'm so
I
sorry.
did know Mr. Gwynn. He used to work at Springfield High School as a principal.
I used to have a neighbor. I'm surprised I haven't done that before, so I do apologize. And Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Summer
Thank you.
intervention.
See, I was gonna say, the summer intervention approval,
So, yeah, so basically what this is doing, as we did last month, it allows you to authorize the treasurer to make payments through the grant for those individuals as indicated.
okay. And that was for the summer.
Yeah, like she said earlier, she's the fiscal agent.
Right.
Basically, it comes down to, when ODE approved the grant, they allocate the grant amount based on the request after the approval, and Carrie and I think a person from the WPA, as well as Jamie and from
Matt
Waterville, the principal there, Matt Beekes, the dean of students, went down, went through ODE, went through all the training on the grant and the requirements, and now it's just time to
Pay it out.
to do it, do the grant, which they're doing through summer school, or summer interventions, programming, and so forth. And then, obviously, as that happens over the next couple of years, that you'll be doing this on a
Right.
regular basis or during summer
During
months.
for summer, okay.
One other thing, after the grant was awarded and we went down that day for training, that's when we learned that the program had to run 100 hours.
Oh, okay.
That was nowhere in the documentation, so
Each summer.
I feel like we keep bringing stuff back to approve on this because they said at that meeting that they were going to work with districts, they don't want these funds back. So then when Jamie sent a direct email, they were pretty adamant that, it needs to be 100 hours, so we were needing to make some more changes. So, but basically,
Okay,
I think we're done after this, so.
okay.
This summer.
For this
Yeah.
summer, yeah, okay. All right, we need a motion to approve this payment. Kyle?
I'll
and
second.
Jana? And Carrie, would please call roll.
Mr. Baden?
Yes.
Mrs. Brent?
Yes.
Mrs. Gwynn?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
All right. Superintendent educational reports, Jim.
Oh, thank you. Mine is long too, my sections. I will try to get through my update quickly, but there are a lot of important things to mention right now. 2021-22 state assessment results. We've got some preliminary results in. They are better than they were, than we thought they were going to be, honestly. We're definitely ahead of where the state averages are, which I'm happy about. But obviously, with the last 2 years and what has happened within all of the nation's schools with COVID-19 playing a big part of that, we are a little bit less than where we normally are as far as results and percentages and so forth. But I think through our intervention programs that we've put in place throughout this last year, as well as this summer again and last summer, I think we're seeing the gains and actually pleasantly surprised by the gains that we're seeing through the programming that we're offering to our students. I just wanted to mention that. All the official results will come out in September, typically is when they come out. So, and they're still updating the results. But at least we know right now they're very good versus what we thought they were going to be. Strategic planning update. We're right now, so if you remember, we have a draft of our goals, our mission statement, our vision statement, our core beliefs through the work of the retreat that happened with roughly 60 community members. Some of those individuals were internal as far as employees of staffing, and some of those people were external, business leaders, community leaders, and so forth. We have used that group now again through a survey to gather information on what should we do to achieve those goals, okay? What action steps should we take? And so right now, we're still collecting that information. Once we have that, we will go through our writing team that worked on what came out of the retreat to develop the action steps to achieve those goals. So that's kind of where we're at. We hope to have that all finalized and to you at the August board meeting. And then from there, what we'll do is, through the beginning of next school year, we'll work with the staff on, okay, here are the, you know, the core beliefs, the vision statement, the mission statement, the goals, the strategies to complete those goals, and how do we get that done, right? How do we, in each building, each department, work to achieve those goals, and those, take care of those action steps. So just know that that's where we're going with the strategic planning. Facilities assessment and planning, as you will see later, you will be asked to approve a resolution to approve me to enter into the contract with the collaborative. There's a legal process that we had to go through to choose the collaborative amongst those who submitted their qualifications. As you know, we've already done that, and the good news is that hopefully with your approval today, they will start next Wednesday with walkthroughs and start that process of a facilities assessment, which will then lead into facility master planning, that's the part where the community will be involved in those conversations internally and externally through stakeholder input, based on, you know, where are we at and where do we need to go moving forward with enrollment and programming and so forth. That will also address all facilities, not just, when we think about facilities, we typically first go to school facilities, or school building facilities, but we've got some athletic facility needs and some other, I think, learning needs, as well as, you know, just making sure we're poised to move forward, you know, in our future. So all of that will come out through the facilities planning process. November board meeting, I just wanted to mention or ask, later you'll see a request to change the date of the November board meeting. I didn't realize when we approved that back in January that the November date that we approved is the Monday of the Ohio School Board Association conference, which, if you know, that conference starts on Sunday, goes Monday and part of Tuesday. So obviously some of us wouldn't be here to do that. So I'm asking that we move it back a week to November, I think, 14th, which you'll see later on in the agenda.
From the 14th to
From
the
the
7th.
14th to the 7th, maybe.
I have it down as the 14th to the 7th, which is,
Let me look real
generally
quick.
it is the,
Yeah, I think
I
that
have
should
it
be,
in my calendar as the 14th already.
was our
Yeah,
meeting,
hold
yeah,
on
and I
one
think that's
second.
usually when the OSBA conference is.
thank you for seeing that. Let me
Yeah.
look real quick. Departments, and that will take me down to,
And your recommendation does say to move it to the 7th.
okay, so it does say move to the 7th. That may need
And
to
that
be
would be the day
flip-flopped.
before the election,
Let me see here, hold on a second.
right? Would that be?
Yes, the 8th.
No,
is
election day's probably the
the
1st.
8th.
Is the 8th.
It's the
It
8th,
is
it's
the
always
eighth.
the
The day
second
before.
Tuesday, right?
Oh, I thought it was,
Yeah.
yeah, it does say that
I
on
feel like
his.
it's the second Tuesday usually.
Okay.
Yes, 13th to 15th.
Yeah, the trade show's November 13th through the 15th.
So to move it
Or
to the.
not the trade
So
show, the
right now,
conference.
yeah, we're scheduled right now to meet on the 14th.
14th.
Okay,
Which
and
is
curious,
conflicts.
you're saying that it,
The
That's capital
conference is,
conference.
Yeah,
yeah,
so-
13th through the 15th.
so as it's presented on there, I think it's correct, right? That we need to.
Yes.
Yes,
To the 7th, yes. Now that's pre-election, is that?
Yeah, it
wanna do
should be,
that way?
should
Okay.
be fine,
Okay,
yeah.
so change it to the 7th.
Yeah, so we'll ask you to approve that here in a few minutes. Let me talk about school safety. Obviously, you know, I had sent a message out after the situation in Texas. I just want to mention, you know, since then, we've had some meetings with local officials and our first responders, and conversations about, you know, what can we do to always improve safety and security for those that are in our school buildings and our facilities, as well as we had some conversations with our administrators in regards to what are our procedures now and how can we improve those. And so I'll be putting a message out later today to our community and to our parents, but I want to highlight a little bit about that right now in the meeting. You know, the great thing about our local area is we have a great relationship with our community first responders. We meet regularly with them. to have conversations about facilities, safety, and I'm very happy about that work because it's essential as we move forward to make sure that our buildings are safe for everyone involved in being there. When we look at our state emergency response plans that we have in our district, each school district's required to have them per Ohio law. Really the framework of that plan is developed through the Department of Homeland Security. We go over those plans each year with our first responders in the area, as well as, we go through with and conduct emergency training based on those plans with our students and teachers each year. Some of that's required by law, some of it's not, that we do. We're in talks about what does that look like moving forward. And so just be aware of that. We may see some additional trainings coming up, but I want to have more conversations with our first responders. Increased security measures. We've done a number of safety improvements to our facilities over the last, actually 7 years. Through the bond issue, we improved the front entry vestibule areas to make sure that they were secure with different systems. We have shatter-resistant glass materials placed on windows, increased video surveillance inside and outside of buildings, as well as on school buses, as we've talked about. We've improved exterior lighting and also internal emergency response systems in the buildings. There's other things, I just wanted to mention those, but there's other things that we've done as well to address school safety. Some of that's been through operational funds, some of that's been through permanent improvement funds, some of those have been through grant funds that we've found, or we've been successful in getting through the state that are available. We did apply for some more grants that through the state, if you remember back last year, for the radio system that we approved to be put in place. We did not get those for that. But the great news on that one was, as I shared with you in an email recently, is that that cost came down dramatically. I don't have the final figure on that yet, but because of the approval and the way it was done and the materials that we can use now, that has come down as expected. So we're excited about that moving forward, and that's all about increasing our signal that can come out of a building if there is an emergency, to our first responders that would be in the area. I also want to mention, obviously on the agenda, there is an additional school resource officer, so not one, but 2 positions that we're asking you to approve. We have a good working relationship with the White House Police Department. These 2 individuals will be, one of them already is the White House police officer. Chuck Kessinger has been to high school, junior high, on campus mostly, has been over at White House Primary a little bit too. He's been with us for a couple of years now and has gone through the school resource training that's required by state law. Each of the individuals who are police officers who serve in schools have to go through that training that's required by the state to serve in this role. They're White House police officers while they're there. They function as police officers. They're involved in some investigations if we believe that they are criminal in nature. They're involved in situations where if there's a car accident on the property, they're involved in those. If we have situations that are security concerns, they're involved in those. Daily, they're doing daily security for us. They're walking the halls, interacting with kids, out in parking lots, doing that type of work as well. But a lot of the work they do is in conjunction with our administrators in dealing with situations that we have each and every day. Most of those are minor. It could be a vape that we're confiscating from a student at the high school, which seems to be something that's definitely been a common occurrence, unfortunately, over the last 5 or 6 years, to something that may be more severe. We've had situations where threats have been made on social media, and they're involved in those conversations as well, and investigations. So they're a vital resource. After talking with our first responders and talking with our administrators, we believe that an additional position at this time was necessary in moving forward with improving our safety and security. So just also to remind you, we do have at our primary buildings surveillance. And if you drive to Waterville Primary, you typically see a police officer there in the morning and afternoon. We try to do that with our primary. We have a relationship with the Lucas County Sheriff's Office for Monclova Primary. And obviously with White House being here, we have that relationship with them as well. So there's obviously not as much need there, but it's also a concern that we still have, and we have those relationships with them to make sure that we have availability. But our SRO also can respond to those individual buildings as a contracted service of the district. So just be aware of that as well.
And this would be another White House police
It
officer.
would, yeah. In the past, if you remember, we have looked at the two main departments that provide these services, which is the Sheriff's Office and the White House Police Department. And just as Carrie talked about with insurance, obviously look at cost, right, and services. And in the past, White House has been cheaper than the Sheriff's Office in providing these services. And from my understanding right now, they're still cheaper than the Sheriff's Office to do that. And obviously, it's with having them with, the four buildings of the 6 in the village of White House, and their response time, if there's another issue as well, in working with their department is nice for, with that relationship.
So
So.
we've got this building and the,
Yeah, and actually,
garage
the
and the
bus garage
operations and-
operations in this building too. So that's definitely helpful.
and we're waiting for this before are they gonna have to hire a new person? or-
Well, I've had that conversation with them. I think that they have a person who's already on staff that's interested in doing this. And so, I think that's probably what they'll do, but I will have to have those conversations with them.
Okay.
They just advertised for an additional police officer, so I'm assuming that they're anticipating this being approved, moving forward. And, the other side of this too is obviously, some people would blame COVID, as far as the increase in student mental health concerns that schools have seen across the nation. I think there's a variety of reasons for that, but it's not something that we can just say we're going to ignore. It's something that we need to help our students while they're at school, and sometimes out of school, in dealing with their mental health concerns. And I will tell you, some of this starts as early as fall and timbers, typically. But mostly it's going to be at the junior high, and high school. But also in doing, trying to do something to help our students. We already have positive behavior intervention systems in place, programming that is supposed to create a positive culture and climate, create a set of expectations that students understand, so that we have positive actions but from our students as they are learning within our classrooms. And I mention that because that's something also that is required by the state, is the PBIS system. And we definitely have, I think, a very good program here in our school district. But also, we're increasing services to our students. We're adding a guidance counselor position, which really means now that there'll be 2 full-time counselors at Fallen Timbers and 2 full-time counselors at junior high. As well as a full-time social worker that will work with all families district-wide in an effort to help students be successful while they're here at school. Because there have been plenty of situations where we need that support, and we want to make sure that we have it for this upcoming school year, because if we can be preventative, that's essential to making sure that we're having a safe environment. I also want to mention, there's been a lot of discussion, a lot of media to the new gun law in two avenues. One, the new carry law, as well as then the change in legislation of the existing law that was present as far as the training that's required to carry a weapon as a school employee. Because really that law is not new. I think there's misnomers out there that law is new. That law has been in effect for a handful of years, but it dramatically lowered the amount of training required in an effort for a school employee to carry a gun at school. We do not have it. We've not had a policy in the past to carry a gun while as a school employee. I've had conversations with local first responders, and they would not suggest that we have a policy as well. And so just be aware that we don't have a policy. That would have to be done through board action. And at this time, in talking with our first responders, they're not recommending that. So just be aware of that at this time. I also just want to mention, too, I can't emphasize enough as we do each school year on a handful of occasions, that with our students, our staff, our community members, our parents, if they see something, say something. Hear something, say something, right? If you see concerns out there, whether it be on social media, which is typically the place, or in other communications that you're seeing or hearing, there is an anonymous tip line. It's 1-844-SAFER-OHIO. We share that out. It's posted in our school buildings, each year. It takes a community to make sure our schools are safe, and so I encourage those who see things that are of concern to use that tip line or to contact the administration or contact the police in their areas, and they, like I said, we have great relationships with the local police. If you contact the tip line, we're going to be contacted. Our SROs are going to be contacted, and we're going to do what we can to immediately address those issues. Okay. So I just wanted to mention those things as we move forward. Obviously, this is an ongoing work. It's never ending. To address ways that we can improve safety in our buildings. I want to mention one other thing is, another piece of this is threat assessment. So threat assessment teams are in each building. They're required by law. There was a little bit of a change in the last year as far as the types of training that you had to go through. Our administrators and staff that are on those threat assessment teams are doing that this summer for the most part. And, we already had those in place, but we're going through training to make sure that we have the right training per the Ohio law. And those teams are set up to be preventative, right, to address potential concerns moving forward. And our SROs serve on those committees as well as part of their roles and responsibilities within the district. So that's all I have right now, but know that we'll be talking about this a very important issue as we move forward. Okay. The next item on the agenda is additional spending, in this next school year. Obviously, I've mentioned some things that'll be additional spending. Carrie mentioned the ESSER funds. Really, a lot of those funds will be expended through this next school year through interventions that we've put in place, through hiring staff to do those interventions and so forth. And that's, that ESSER funds are coming to an end, and we'll have to make a decision on whether we're going to continue those services through our own operational funds. And so that's going to be a major, it's just like when back in the late, what do we call those? I don't want to say 2000s, but, when we had the funds come in through the Obama administration.
Dollar funds.
Yeah, and we had to make decisions on what do we do at that point to continue services that were put in place. And so we'll have to have some of those discussions as we move forward as well. But just know that that's coming. And And obviously, that's a financial increase into the operational funds versus the other grant funding that we have available for those services at this time. Excited to share with you the letter on the class of 2022 that came from the counselors at the high school. You know, I always love, especially, I get to celebrate a little bit of this because my daughter graduated, you know, sharing the information about our graduates with the board and the community. You know, as we look at the number of graduates that, around 329, I say around because some of them did not choose to give us the information that we requested from them. But this is, for the most part, pretty accurate as it relates to the graduates. We had 171 of the graduates this year receive monetary awards through scholarships. And, you know, just the amount of $12.6 million that they were awarded is just amazing. They accepted $7.6 million because, for example, like my daughter, you know, she applied to a handful of schools and received money to attend those schools. And so she picked University of Cincinnati. Unfortunately, that was the one that was the least amount of money offered, but, you know, she did receive offers from other schools. And so that's why the difference in the amount of money. You know, when we look at the local amount of money that was offered to them, you know, it's around $2 million, and that's just amazing to me. And it's a great support from our community and local general community of Northwest Ohio. When we look at the graduates, 74.8% of them are going on to a 4-year college. 10% of them are choosing to go 2-year college or a professional school or into an apprenticeship. 3.3% into the military, and roughly around 14% into the workforce. That number is higher, which I want to celebrate. I'm not saying I celebrate that because I think it's part of the work that we've done to highlight some of the availability of opportunities within the workforce right out of high school. And so I applaud those who are part of that within our school district. The majors that our kids are choosing in those 4-year, 2-year programs are typically, number one, each year is usually business of some sort, engineering, biology, which is typically going into some kind of medical field that they're choosing. And I was happily surprised that 4th was education. I was very happy about that. So I'm excited for our students. When we look at the where are they going, 64 of them are going to BG, 41 to UT, so that's 32% of the graduating class locally. You know, we have around 6% going to Owens. But the next highest really from BG UT was Ohio University, which is abnormal for us, which is at 7%. Usually it's BG UT or UT BG and then to Miami. So it's a little bit of a change. And we also had a higher percentage going over to Cincinnati too. It just maybe because of the winning football team, I don't know. So, you know, just a little bit of information about where our kids are going. You know, when I was running the Boston Marathon the day before the race, I'm in a store right downtown, and one of our graduates walks up to me and says, "Aren't you Dr. Fritz?" And I'm like, "Yes." And so we struck up this conversation, and she's going to Boston University. You know, just we've got kids going everywhere, and I think that's a celebration of the work that we do throughout our pre-K through 12 programming that we offer to our students. So very proud of this group and the work that we do. We also have a gentleman going on to the Naval Academy, which is a tradition in his family. I think the Village of White House celebrated him. I know that they did at their last meeting. So just some highlights on them as well. Okay, so the business that we need to address in the meeting. Item B is the school calendar revision that I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to add a 2-hour delay on October 12th, 2022. Normally, we would have had that in there when you approved the original school calendar back in probably, I think, maybe October or November of last year. It got missed in that. One of our administrators pointed it out. So the process that we go through that with the unions, we didn't catch that. So we wanted to put that back in there. It's a normal thing. Actually, last year we had 2 of them in the second semester, but normally in past calendars, we've had 1 in the first semester and 1 in the second semester. So that's the reason for that request. The board meeting date change, which we've already discussed. The educational agreements that are listed there, where you do see the Village of White House. Also, I'll mention the Battelle work that we're doing with Battelle for Kids and the SOAR through the Portrait of a General. We want to continue that work through our SOAR team to continue the development of our Portrait of a General program, as well as the professional development that they provide, not only to the SOAR team, but that we bring back then to our district as well. It's very valuable, and we're seeing more and more districts like Washington Local, Perrysburg, and I've been trying to encourage a few others to be a part of that network locally, so we can work with them as well through that network. I'm also asking that as a part of that work that I just mentioned, the Ed Leader 21 conference, our SOAR team, I would ask the board approve for us to attend. We've put in the request to present at that conference. We're waiting to hear back on that based on our work. And I think we'll be presenting, which I'm very proud of, to all of the attendees at that conference. And that's a part of the Battelle for Network Kids program.
How many do we have on our SOAR team?
So myself, Mr. Herman, Mr. Connor, Lori Williams, Bethany Swift, and Stephanie would be on that team. And we try to do that strategically so that there's different mixes of educational backgrounds, and we work together to implement the Portrait of a General within the school district. Item G, the organizational chart revision, that is based, I skipped F, job description and salary schedule for the Director of Human Resources position that we discussed at the last board meeting, as well as, and the item G is the organizational chart revision, which is adjusting that, yes. And then you'll see that we're asking that you to approve an individual who already works for us as the Director of Human Resources in the next section of the agenda. Item H, compensation for additional training and work outside of their normal contracted time. And primarily what this is so we're doing for the dyslexia legislation that's required through Ohio law and the work that we're required to do with our students. We are asking staff to become almost like train the trainers and go through this Wilson training. So we'll have a small number of individuals that are doing work outside of their contracted time, and we're asking that you approve those stipends for those individuals based on that work. And so we've looked at the amount of time that they're spending doing that, and we feel that makes sense moving forward. And then the resolution with to approve the collaborative to do our facility master planning as well as our facilities assessments, and you giving me the opportunity to enter into that contract with them. That's a lot. A through I. Do you have questions? If not, I'll ask you to approve those in one motion.
Any questions on any of the above?
This time, anyway.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, definitely.
not,
But that's June, so.
Right, as we prepare for the next year.
Yeah, yes.
Then I need a motion to approve.
I'll move.
Janet, and a second.
second.
Kyle. Carrie, would you please call roll?
Mr. Baden?
Yes.
Mrs. Brent?
Yes.
Mrs. Gwynn?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
All right, and for salary.
Thank you. You know, as we get ready for this next school year, I'm very proud of our administrators and staff that served on all of the many interview committees as we, you know, fill open positions that became open through, you know, resignations, but primarily through retirements, and also then increased enrollment and so forth, and adjustment in services that we're providing to our community, or to our students. And so, item A, you will see the resignations and retirements that I'm asking that you approve. Item B is employment. As you see, there's a number of individuals that we're asking you to approve based on all the interviewing that we're doing, and the increased needs, and also filling open positions for the next school year. Item C, substitute employees, as listed for, we have a few for this summer that are working through our programs, as well as through our summer intervention programs, as well as our substitutes for next school year. Item D are volunteers for athletics for this next school year primarily. Item E is limited supplemental contracts as we add individuals to fill open coaching positions for this next school year. Item F are supplemental contracts as we not only fill coaching, but also supplementals for extracurricular activities as well for this next school year. Unless you have questions, I would ask that you approve A through F at this time.
Any questions on any of that? That's a standard.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Kyle, and a second, please?
I'll second.
Jeff. Carrie, would you please call roll?
Mr. Baden?
Yes.
Mrs. Brent?
Yes.
Mrs. Gwynn?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
All right, at this point in our meeting, we will take any comments from, we had 3 that signed up, actually, and I think a couple of you may have said if we didn't, you may not, if we didn't address some of the things in here. But first on the list, and our guidelines are listed in our agenda, and we will, are you doing that?
Yeah.
We do limit you to 5 minutes at this point, and set the timer for it. First on our list is Kathy Craig. If you would like to stand up and.
Oh, okay. Can I approach the board?
Do you have something to?
I have,
Is that what you, okay?
hope I have enough for almost everyone. Okay, on Friday, May 20th, Monclova Elementary hosted their end-of-the-year festival. A friend of mine took her neighbor's daughter to the festival. Apparently, Monclova Elementary had been giving archery lessons to the kids K through 4, and Cleland's Gun Shop was providing the trailer at the festival to enclose the archery area. Once inside, my friend was shocked and appalled that Cleland's was written in large letters with a large picture of a gun, which you'll see on the paper I just sent out. She took a photo and stopped by my home on Monday, the 23rd, to show me the picture. On Tuesday, May 24th, the same day that 19 children and 2 teachers were murdered in Uvalde, Texas at Robb Elementary School, I made a call to the principal of Monclova Elementary. She was not available but called me back later. When I expressed my shock and disgust with the school letting Cleland's bring in this trailer, her first response was, well, that was something the Parents Club was in charge of. And she said, it's not like they were selling guns. And I responded with, that's the point, not the point here, and you know it. I also said, I wonder what all the parents would think if they knew this. She claimed, but I highly doubt that they were told about the advertisement and with a picture of a gun. I also noted how inappropriate this was and that they could have at least covered the sign. After all, it is a form of advertising, and clearly an elementary school is a completely inappropriate venue to be advertising it at. Again, she said it wasn't like they were selling guns. I also said, in light of what just happened in Uvalde, Texas, that this could not be more appalling, and that the principal, in this case, that nothing at that school happens without this person's approval. And this person didn't want to talk to me anymore. That same day, I called this office and was told that I would get a call back, which I did not. So I called again the next day. And I spoke to someone here, since I'm not allowed to mention names, and I reiterated my discussion with the principal at Monclova, and that for this person to throw the parents and the parents club under the bus was pretty sleazy and slimy. After all, approving what is going on is this person's responsibility as the principal. This is in part what she's paid for. I also again said that they could have at least covered the advertisement. The person I talked to here did not seem to be too concerned, and even said that, well, Monclova Elementary has used Cleland's before. How that could make this okay is beyond me. So I have to wonder, do you think that made this okay? I also said I wonder what your board would think of this. Do these people honestly think that nothing like what happened at Robb Elementary could ever happen here in Monclova? They just gave advertisement to Cleland's, thereby opening the door for exactly this kind of thing to happen. Do any of you honestly think we have no individuals around here who would ever do that kind of thing? Those people live everywhere. There is no room for complacency. My husband and I have lived in Monclova for the last 35 years and have been involved with many community programs, fundraisers, and basically helping others. I love this community and the children here. To witness officials here giving any credence to any gun store is beyond appropriate for any school. I would like for this board to set guidelines for this kind of thing so that it does not ever happen again. And I would also request, as crazy as you might all think it is, that this principal and this person I talked to here send letters of apology to the Monclova Parents Club and to the parents of these elementary school children. I am hoping you will all step up to the plate here and do the right thing, at least for the children and the teachers. And I yield back to you.
Thank you for your comments. We'll have some discussion about that. Shelley, did you want to speak next? Okay. You're good, okay. And Bill, do you?
Yes, when I saw the agenda, I saw that there was an agenda item about stepping up the resource officers. And being a former teacher, I always had very positive experience with having those types of personnel in our building to support the administration. I know they work closely with the administration. And Mr. Fritz, you did an excellent job explaining the background information and the rationale for this expenditure. So I was also pleased to hear you mention other additional resources in the way of counselors, social workers, addressing mental health issues, looking at threat assessments and alerts. That's all, I think, an important part of a comprehensive plan. And I would concur with Mrs. Craig. I think symbols of violence and guns, there should be an added layer there that maybe we're ignoring. And as you know, youth are very impressionable. We don't allow symbols for cigarette smoking, even though it's legal, cigarette smoking, vaping. but we limit the advertising, the exposure to impressionable youth. So I would support the board taking a close look at this and not just being nonchalant about it, because it should be part of a comprehensive plan, in my mind. And the second issue or questions I had were about the replacement of a board member here. And again, I understand what you were up against. You had very short notice. You had to replace someone within a limited amount of time. I know you did, you put out a public announcement that you would accept nomination or people that had an interest. My only interest is that you did your due diligence in selecting the best candidate and that it was transparent. And I guess I'll give you the benefit of a doubt. If you had more time, you would have looked at all the candidates more closely. You would have explained your rationale. But given that Mr. Lutz had been a board member, he had a great track record, I supported his candidacy. You had to go with the known quantity, I guess is what your final decision was. But again, I think board members play an important role, and in the future, as much as possible, that we choose the best candidate. So I would just chime in with that. So thank you for hearing me out.
And if I may say something, yeah, selecting when you have a lot of good candidates, it's a tough call, so. But again, you know, we encourage anyone that's interested in going to the Board of Elections and going through that process as well. And who knows, we may have another opening. You never know. All right, I think that was it that had signed up for commenting today. At this point, then, I will say, we have a July meeting, this July 7th scheduled, that we had put on our calendar, if necessary, in January when we did our meeting calendar. But at this time, that's typically for last-minute hires, that kind of thing, so there's we won't be having that meeting at this point.
So the next one will
So
be
the next one will be August 8th at 8 a.m. in here as well, so that one is canceled. With that, I need a motion to adjourn, unless someone else has something they want to discuss.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Kyle, and a second.
I'll second.
Jeff. And Carrie, would you please call roll?
Mr. Baden?
Yes.
Mrs. Brent?
Yes.
Mrs. Quinn?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
All right. Thank you for all sticking with us. This was a little longer than usual, but see you again in August.